today for my dad. It's his 85th birthday. Margie asked me to give you a little bit of background because some of you don't know him back in the life before he moved here to Arkansas, Kimberly City in California. And he may have told you that he was a retired kamikaze pilot or a gynecologist from Boys Town. Indoor repairman for submarines, because he used to tell people that, but not to burst your bubble, he did have a lot of other careers. Those weren't one of them. So I want to kind of tell you a little bit about what I experienced growing up with him as my father.
Yes.
And this morning, just I have an email thing I subscribe to. It's called Thought of the Day, and it comes in, it's like a quote from a famous person. And this morning, I was checking my email about 6:30 this morning to see if my brother had written anything, and it said, vitality, this is from F. Scott Fitzgerald, vitality shows, and not only the ability to persist, but the ability to start over. And that really explains, because last night I was trying to think all the things that my dad had done, and he shared with us, and he had a career that you wouldn't believe of different things. Starting with, at Hershey, he learned a trade. He saw some pictures out there with the wood shop, because he was like a carpenter. And so I remember he'd do a lot of projects at the house from the skills he learned there. Went into the Navy, and he was a medic, but he never pursued it. In fact, Sherry's asking on the way out here, he said, how come he didn't go into medicine? But he had some of those skills, and he was actually able to teach Sherry. We have a little ranch outside of Osage, and he taught her how to vaccinate the animals. That saved us a bunch of vet bills, I'll tell you. Yeah, exactly. And then he went to, after the Navy, Dale Carnegie, which is it's like Toastmaster Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people. And that's where, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he did that. That's actually where he met my mother. She was from Rome, New York. And she was taking the class, and they met, and they never told me exactly why they went to California, but knowing him, he is pretty easygoing, and he'll do whatever people want. I'm pretty sure it was my mom's idea. And they went to California in the 50s, and they bought a house in Berkeley, I think in 53 for like $6,000. And that house now is probably in the millions, because California real estate. And there in California, my mom was a probation officer, and he had a variety of different jobs. He was working for advertising specialties, those little imprinted pens and keychains and things. He would sell those to businesses. And for a while, he worked for Pacific Bell, selling yellow page ads. And he worked at a radio station. And the cool thing was, that was back when I was getting up in age. I was born in 55. And back then, he used to take me and my brother to work with him before it became like a national thing to do. Take your son to work or your daughter to work. But he used to take us to work a lot, and we used to share in that experience, playing around the radio station. He also worked at a school called, it's called American Marketing School, but actually what it was is something that you don't see anymore, cashier checking machines in grocery stores. He actually owned a school that taught people how to do that. That's obsolete now, but back then it was something. And that was right downtown San Francisco. And so my brother and I go to work with him, and we get to run around San Francisco. And at the time, anyone from the Bay Area knows there's a subway system called BART, and they were actually building BART at the time, tearing up the streets right in front of the school, building the Trans-America Pyramid, we saw it being built. But we got a good experience running around doing that. Also, as I said before, he did a lot of public speaking. He had a speech that he wrote based on a little booklet that he wrote called Behind the Chocolate Curtain. Because my whole life, I never had a grandfather for real on his side, because his father died when he was about 4 or 5. And he was raised by Milton Hershey, and he always identified with that. And as you can see, in fact, we want people to take these things, these mementos he's been saving, but he wants to share his love of Hershey. And I said that they're probably, I don't know if they could find anybody anywhere that's a better goodwill ambassador for Hershey. And as far as I know, I did his taxes for a few years. He never got paid a dime from Hershey for doing all that. So at one time in California, they had the Hershey plant was the big thing in Pennsylvania, but back in the late 60s, they built a factory in Oakdale, California, and he actually was chosen to dedicate that. Remember, he took us there. Yeah, we took tours of the place. So I mean, you see what he's wearing? He's the best, and those Hershey Kisses. And the amazing thing is that one thing I guess I didn't inherit was his gene for, he's a chocoholic and he loves Hershey chocolate and all that, but the the guy was skinny as could be. He was in the hospital, you know, a couple of days ago, basically as proud as could be, the fact that he could do 2 hours in Golden Corral and not put on any weight. I wish I had gotten that one, but I don't. So also, other things he did back in California, he had a friend who was into the musical theater business, and there was a theater called Woodminster. It's in the hills of Oakland, and it's a beautiful amphitheater outside. And that place had kind of gotten run down, and this person got it back up in shape. And my dad did all the PR, all the advertising, did all the interviews. And the nice thing is he brought us with him, so we got to go behind stage, watch the rehearsals. And Sherry said, you know, check out all the babes, you know, the actors. And the other thing, the thing that we do, we get from our parents is not just our name, our genes, all that, but it's the ethic. The work ethic is something that I can remember too, is that, you know, if I wanted something, they didn't, you know, say, hey, I want a new bicycle, or I want some new toys, or I want a motorcycle. They said, well, go earn the money and get it yourself. And that's what we did. In fact, we had it at our first house in Danville. We had a couple of big walnut trees, and every year the walnuts come down, and we fill up the gunny sack, and you take them down to the granary, got $1 a sack. So every year I'd get like $50 for that, and that's what I bought my toys with. And back in high school, I wanted a motorcycle real bad. He said, well, you save up and get the motorcycle. So I got a job at a restaurant washing dishes for $1.50 an hour. And it was about 20 miles from home, so I rode my bicycle, my 10-speed bicycle, at 4 in the afternoon to the restaurant. And he was so supportive that when I got off work at 3 in the morning, he came down and picked me up, and so I didn't have to drive home at night on the bicycle. So then I finally got enough money, I bought the motorcycle. And then I had an accident, and I was in the hospital, and I was having flashbacks. This is the first time that he's ever been in the hospital my whole life, 85 years. And it brought flashbacks to me because I was in the hospital 41 years ago when he came to visit me and helped me heal. And we were wishing for a better outcome here, but, you know, and he was looking forward to his 85th birthday. He then got into, I'm running out of time here, but one of his main things he likes doing is helping people. And so one of his best careers he finally settled on was AMVETS. It's American Veterans. And he had a tour of different veterans buildings and hospitals around the Bay Area that he would go visit. And he would help people through all the paperwork, you know, getting the benefits that they're entitled to. And ironically, Chip here is telling me in the hospital that they just finally got all the paperwork for him to get the benefits. And then, but I guess it's going to help with the medical bills. So that'll be good. But the whole idea is we all know the government bureaucracy is getting messier and messier all the time, so having an advocate to help you out. So that worked out real well. So anyways, that was his time in California. And just the short thing is that I got sick of California and all the regulations, the rules, the taxes, and we decided about 20 years ago that we wanted to make a change. And we came out, shot for property, and moved here. And he came with us, and we had another house on our property that we bought, and he stayed there for a while. And then he met Margie, and they got married like 16 years ago, and he's been super happy. So I was so glad that she took care of him. She kept him healthy as could be. Like he had never had any threatening things. This is why it's one of those things you think that he's going to live forever. I mean, I literally thought that he would be here speaking at my funeral, but it turned out the other way around. But it's surprising. And I'm sure he's really glad to see you all here. And I don't know if we do that rest. Anyone else want to share anything with them? Feel free to come up. And I'll stay around later if people have stories. We try to get a cross-section of pictures back on the viewing thing so you can kind of see his life and the fact that you know, he went through different hairstyles and side chops. And Sherry had some decency, so that bathtub scene had a little bit more showing in the original. Anyway, so thank you for being here.
He was a comic.
Thank you.